We welcome our first guest today from the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce. Hugo Chesshire is the Director of Policy and Government Relations. Hugo, last week Statistics Canada released their report on the economic impact and social impact of COVID-19 1 year later. What's the Chamber's takeaways from this as far as the economic impact?
Well, in some ways it's as bad as we thought or worse than we thought. And a lot of the things that we're seeing as well are the comparisons that say we're doing a bit better now. That's compared against April, So yes, we are doing a bit better now than we were in April, but April was absolutely terrible. So of course, when we're comparing it to earlier in 2019, then it really doesn't look good at all. And it's not been evenly distributed as well. That's the important thing about this. The statistics show that not every Canadian has been equally impacted, not every Canadian business has been equally impacted, and those divisions have really been spotlighted by this pandemic.
When we look at Niagara, we know that it's a lot of hospitality and tourism jobs that have gone by the wayside, a lot of summer employment, student employment, and those jobs, again, are typically lower income jobs. So that has really been felt hard here in the Niagara region.
It has, yes. There's a lot of jobs have been lost. Although the government subsidies have really helped, and the industry that's actually been most likely to rehire with the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy has been accommodation and food service. So there is a bit of a bright light there that the wage subsidies were able to bring a lot of people back. And certainly anecdotally from talking to people in those industries, it seems to confirm what the statistics say, which is a lot of them got that subsidy and thought, great, I can bring some of my staff back now.
Moving from jobs to the people that create those jobs, businesses. Businesses in Niagara, we have a great deal of businesses that are 5 employees and fewer. Mm-hmm. How have they fared during this?
Not well, and that's been most of the closures that have been observed. I think something like half of all the business closures have been small firms, I think. And it depends what industry they're in as well, because not all industries were affected. As you've said, accommodation and food service, the tourism sector is big here in Niagara. They've been very badly affected by this. On the other hand, home construction is through the roof. There's been big gains all through 2020, and it seems like that industry, at least for the terms of this recession, has been recession-proof.
We've seen some businesses close on the main streets in a lot of Niagara's 12 municipalities. What are you hearing from your members as far as how long they can continue and what will happen if there is indeed a third wave?
Yeah, it's certainly not good. A lot of them are reporting, it's like 40% of businesses in Canada now report they can't take on any additional debt. They're up to the limit. I think a large portion of them, like 1 in 5 of them, does not know if they'll still be in business 6 months from now unless things pick up. And obviously in Niagara, that's going to be worse. Those are the countrywide statistics, but here, because we're so concentrated in things like restaurants, hotels, bars, things that are badly affected, that's going to make it worse. And conversely, we have less of the industry that is less affected, like finance, insurance, real estate. We're less concentrated there than somewhere like Toronto is. So we're particularly vulnerable in that regard.
Besides the CERB and the wage subsidies, what other positives can you take from this report? What other positives are there out there?
Certainly the Ontario Small Business Grant has been very helpful, and that's that widespread giveaway that was just $10,000 to $20,000 for businesses, including new businesses, which is a real gap that we'd seen in the federal subsidies, was great. It was a shot in the arm. It wasn't a huge amount of money, but it made a big difference to a lot of firms. In terms of other lights at the end of the tunnel, if you were in online retail or you're able to pivot to online retail, you've done great. When we held our economic summit, we had the chief economist from BDC, and his phrase, which I memorized because it was so great, was, if you're in online retail, it's Christmas every month. And that's really been the case. So it depends on what your industry is. If you're in construction, you're booming. If you're in real estate, things are going great right now. So for some sectors, things are definitely going better than others.
In Niagara, we have some businesses where really the owner of that business is the only person working in that business. That can't be easy for a lot of these people in those kinds of situations.
No, not at all. When it's their only livelihood, it's very hard. And there are a lot of questions as well about enforcement of all these rules. When all these rules first came out about screening people at the door, that was actually a very common call I got at the chamber, was people saying, well, I'm the only employee of my business. Do I have to hire someone to stand at the door and ask everyone, hey, have you been into a foreign country in the last 2 weeks? Have you been coughing lately? Or can I just do something else? And when we asked that to the government, the response was kind of, so what we figured in the end was, well, the big stores are just putting signs up at the notice, so that's okay, and that seemed to be okay. But that was a lot of the issue with the rules as well, was trying to keep up with them. And for larger firms, again, to get back to your point, the larger firms, it was easier. If you've got an HR department and a legal department, they can keep on top of all this stuff for you. But if you're just one person and you have all of these rules and directives coming out every day, it's very hard to keep up with that. That's why we started a daily update at the GNCC.
When I look at one other thing, when we talk about Niagara over the last few years, we've talked a lot about population growth. And will this pandemic affect the progress that Niagara's made over the last few years when it comes to that?
It seems to have had a negative impact on immigration across the country. The numbers are down. And one of the key takeaways that Statistics Canada gave us was that in order for a recovery to be as good as it can be, we need those numbers to pick back up again. And certainly that's true in Niagara, where we have an older population than the province and the country as a whole, where we are projected to attract more older people as well. Our population growth in the next 30 years or so is projected to be mostly older people. And so in order to counterbalance that, you need younger people to actually work and pay the taxes and keep things running. So our ability to attract new immigrants will be crucial. One of the things we've actually been looking for at the Chamber for a while is some sort of targeted immigration program where we can identify the skills, the people that we need, and then go out looking for those people to try and attract them to Niagara. I remember years ago when there was that rail disaster in Quebec with the oil cars, and so they changed the regulations and say all the rail cars now have to be double welded. And this Niagara firm got a big contract, and they said, well, okay, now we need to hire 300 welders yesterday.
Right? But they couldn't find them.
They couldn't find them, no. The Niagara College can train welders, but it can't train 300 of them tomorrow. So you need to find them somewhere. And he thought at the time, maybe it's just as simple as putting a sign up, going to the Syrian refugees who are coming at a time and say, hi, is anyone here a trained welder? We'll pay you. Come to Niagara. We've got a job for you.
Makes sense. Hugo, thanks for joining us today to pick apart some of that report and some other things. We really appreciate your time.
Anytime, Mike. Thank you.